What's scarier than realizing that it's Thursday and you need to get your fantasy football lineup set? How about a Halloween edition of Fantasy Football Live? Notice a theme out of the gates. We are in costume. It is going to be wild as we get you ready for Thursday Night Football. Now, I know you look around and you're thinking, wow, these are different faces because you can barely recognize us in costume, but we also have a special guest. I'm Jason Fitz hanging out with you. In the middle of this, we have George Kittle, do we? Or do we have Andy Behrens? Matt Harmon is dressed as Casper the Friendly Ghost. You can't see him at all. James Coe coming in as Coe Exotic. I mean, welcome to the show. And by the way, kudos to, Coe, let's just start with the most important thing. Did you buy that shirt? You already own it. Let's be honest. America needs to know.
Oh, listen, Joe Exotic took the style from me. I was very upset that he did not credit me for that. This is my normal going out shirt. Whenever I want to go get groceries, let people know that, you know, I'm in the building. So I've got the shirt ready to rock and roll. So this is normal. Now, the hair I had to get, but the shirt, again, just normal Wednesday, Thursday wear.
Do we always just leave that much of we're just leaving the chest out there for the people? We're just leaving it out. And also, I mean, did you guys get the same way? Like, I'm just curious, George Kittle, like, is George, and I feel like I should call Andy Behrens George Kittle the rest of the day. I'm just going to be honest, man. I feel like if I walked up to you at like a music festival in my old touring days, I might ask you if you could sell me something. I don't know. It's part George Kittle, part, guy on the street selling me a dime bag I didn't know I was getting.
This is an aesthetic that I think I may carry beyond Halloween. I am weirdly comfortable in this. I'm loving it. Also, I can't help but I just like to imagine that there's a tiger, like a fully grown adult tiger, sleeping at James's feet right now. I hope that's the case.
Oh my God. If the tiger comes out at any point, I'll grab a piano and we'll recreate the hangover. You guys can get in on the conversation. Hashtag AskFFL. That's the way you get into it. Hashtag AskFFL. Yes, I was going to wear all sorts of prosthetic gross masks, but we decided, Ghostbusters could be a little bit more family friendly. Let's take a look now. Let's take a look at our fantasy game changers for this week, powered by Ram Trucks. You know the game. It's like password. I'm going to give you a word we associate with Ram Trucks, and then you give me a player you associate with that word. Andy, your word? Versatile. Versatile.
Yeah, Breece Hall is versatile. He is suddenly some kind of PPR machine. He's got 5 receptions last week, 11 in his last 3 games. He's kind of consolidated power in the Jets' backfield in these last 2 games. He's finally back to playing over 50% of the snaps. That's obviously great to see. Last 2 games, how about 42 touches for 287 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns. He's averaging 4.2 yards after contact per attempt. That's the highest rate in the league among any back with over 50 carries. It's just sort of all happening lately for him. He is certainly going to continue that against the Giants. New York's defense allows 5 yards per carry, 137 rushing yards per game. The 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs is just kind of a perfect storm here. Hall has a real chance to finish as the overall RB1 in Week 8.
I'm going to go with a word here that I associate with Ram Trucks, and that's premium. And premium for me is pretty easy, especially after last week. Mark Andrews, Ravens tight end, has always been premium, but particularly what we saw last week was an awakening. Remember, new offensive coordinator. This has been covered well, but he comes from Georgia, University of Georgia, at the college level, where he used his tight ends beautifully. So one of the expectations is that this offense would open up for the tight end specifically. And I waited and waited and waited to see what that would look like. What we've seen in the last 3 weeks is the depth of route difference. Mark Andrews is running deeper. He is getting open while he does it. And the fact that they were able to do that against a Lions defense that should have had enough pass rush speaks to the efficiency right now of Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is putting the ball on point. He's getting the ball deeper. He is driving it to a tight end that is absolutely going to be open in the middle of the field. I think by the end of the year, Mark Andrews is going to be getting a lot of Kelsey-like respect, deservedly so. And this week continues the trend of premium, especially against the Cardinals defense that can be taken advantage of. So, Coe, your which is hard with the outfit you have on right now, but your word, trustworthy. We all think of Joe Exotic as trustworthy. Coe Exotic, give us trustworthy.
Trustworthy. When I think of trustworthy, man, I can't think of anyone else except A.J. Brown, because this is a man who, for 5 consecutive games, has had over 125 receiving yards. Meanwhile, the matchup is absolutely tasty, man. Washington has allowed the 3rd most fantasy points per game to outside wide receivers. And again, Brown, 5 straight with 125 plus. Washington has given up 5 double-digit PPR scores to outside wide receivers in 6 weeks, and season highs across the board, man, including A.J. Brown himself in week number 2. Remember, a season high 38.5 PPR points, but they've also given up season highs to Drake London and DJ Moore, who actually they gave up a career high 49 PPR points to him lining up outside. So yeah, absolutely trustworthy is going to be A.J. Brown.
Do you guys remember the 80s song What Might Have Been? I think I don't remember who sang it, but there was an 80s power ballad or ballad, What Might Have Been. I feel like Titans fans have to be singing that every single week when they watch A.J. Brown just go off over what turned out to be a couple $1 million. Like Titans fans right now watching the total implosion. Oh, I feel it all the way through. That's a great pick by you. No matter what you're looking for in a light-duty truck, the 2023 Ram 1500's got you covered. Score yours at ram.com. Now, we're going to help you guys make some picks by looking at some tough flex decisions with multiple players for users submitted through social media and the fantasy app. Remember, hashtag AskFFL. Super easy to get it in. Somebody's tuning in right now, and they're just like, what in the hell am I watching? Like, there's expertise happening. I promise you that. Let's start with Tabitha throwing the question out. Tabitha saying full PPR, Michael Pittman, Joshua Palmer, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, or Rashee Rice. Co, what do you got on this one?
Well, I'm never going to go away from Michael Pittman, whether hook or by crook. The guy just produces, and I do think after his comments after the game, I think Gardner Minshew is going to be peppering him with plenty of targets in this upcoming game. So yeah, I'm never going away from Pittman. And again, if you need 3, I think DJ Moore, very reliable. Every single week, it seems like he's getting double-digit points for your fantasy football team. And finally, I'll say Deontay Johnson, man. Jacksonville has allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to outside wide receivers. The 8 touchdowns allowed to the outside. It's tied for the 3rd most in the NFL. Deontay, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to score a lot of touchdowns, but bro, I'm gonna go out and just say Deontay Johnson scores a touchdown this week.
Yeah, by the way, shout out to our incredible crew that works behind the scenes that doesn't get the honor of just sitting here like idiots. Because if you look at this work here, look at this. Look at the work that was got. Like, Rashee Rice is a pirate. Like, and he's got the smiling pirate. Like, I feel like there's a moment where I'd walk up to that door and be like, hey, man, that's a full-size candy bar and somebody that's happy to give it to you, right? Like, Barron's, that's full-size candy bar, right?
Every card here, every graphic is an absolute masterpiece. This is wonderful. I'm almost too distracted.
I think Barron's needs the DJ Moore poster put up on his wall. Okay, let's go to question number 2, and we'll let Barron's answer question number 2 coming in. Jason says, start 2 running backs, half PPR, Aaron Jones, Rashad White, Chuba Hubbard, Javonte Williams. It's hard out there. I always joke, Chuba. Sorry, Chuba. It's hard out there. What do you got, Andy?
Yeah, well, I kind of gave you my Rashad White take already. I think he's going to get plenty of work, and he's probably not going to do a lot with it. I'm going to go and listen. I understand if you're sheepish around Aaron Jones. I thought he looked really good last week. He just seemed to be on a snap count, right? He barely played. He was out there for like 23 snaps, but he was efficient when he was out there. And let's watch the practice reports, assuming he's like a full go on Friday. I feel pretty good about him. Let's just remember way back to week 1 when he was the centerpiece of that offense and it looked great. I think we will get back there again. I'm optimistic it will be this week, so I want Aaron Jones. I think I also want Javonte Williams here. He's coming off 18 touches for 96 yards. Looks great. Looks suspiciously close to pre-injury Javonte, so I'm going to go that direction with this one. I can't quite do it with Chuba.
Yeah, by the way, Javonte headshot there looked great. Like, I love the cowboy get up. That was well done. It was a good costume for him. Let's go to question number 3. Mike says, debating between Tyler Lockett, Dameon Pierce, Rashee Rice, and Joe Mixon. Which 2 out of 4 should I start? Co, what do you got?
Well, I think Pierce is an absolute must start. Okay, and yeah, the cat ears is throwing me off though. Can I pick a man with cat ears? I don't know. Dameon Pierce against Carolina. Carolina's allowed the 2nd most fantasy points per game to the running back position. 5.3 yards per carry allowed. That's the 2nd worst. And man, they've just been absolutely gashed by running backs all across the board. I think Dameon Pierce is an absolute must start. And then when I look across the board here, I kind of like Rashee Rice as well, who has very quietly emerged as a very reliable flex play. He's scored double-digit PPR points in 4 of his last 5 games.
You missed an opportunity. Dameon Pierce clawing his way through the defense. I thought we might go there. He makes defenders say meow. Like there were. It's a work in progress. It's great. Let's get the next question.
I dropped the ball. My bad.
There's plenty of time. Jean-Claude's Damn Van, one of my favorite Twitter handles in history, says, have PPR flex Aaron Jones, Joshua Palmer, Michael Thomas, or Chris Godwin. Please help. I cannot lose to my brother this week. I respect the heck out of that. Barons, what do you got?
Yeah, that seems like a healthy family relationship right there. I could get tempted by Josh Palmer. He's been great. He's been outstanding. Obviously, they need receiving help with Mike Williams done for the year. He's also banged up. He hasn't practiced yet this week. He's got some kind of knee issue. So that is going to cause me to pivot to Aaron Jones, another guy who's been banged up. Just talked about him, though. I just think, he's ready to break out. He's ready to put this hamstring thing behind him. He was so good in week 1. We're going to see it again. This could be a sneaky shootout of a game, too, against the Vikings.
Guys, keep the graphic up if we can here. Co, will you rate for us? We've got 3 Frankensteins. Which Frankenstein is the best? Like, rank them 1 through 3. 1 being the best Frankenstein. Which of our 3 guys makes the best Frank?
I particularly like Michael Thomas's hair.
Yeah.
The drip icing on the top of the lettuce right there is looking nice for me. So I'm going to go with Michael Thomas as the best one. Although Chris Godwin is definitely threatening here. I like the facial scars on Chris Godwin's looking really good too.
Oh, man. All right. Michael Thomas 1, Chris Godwin 2, Joshua Palmer 3. That's the real questions that you need answered. All right. We're going to continue to take more of your questions and give you guys more help throughout the course of the show. Hashtag AskFFL, of course, to get in on this. But obviously, the Chargers hoping to get right against Chicago on Sunday night. Hasn't been the start that they wanted. Austin Eckler pulled back the curtain on how he and his teammates are feeling after the season 2-4 start in Eckler's edge. Check this out.
For us as players, our feelings don't really matter. Like it doesn't matter how I feel. I got a job to do, as players. Yeah, that's what we had. That's what we signed up for, to win football games. You have to treat it with that type of mindset where I have to go out there and try to produce as much as I possibly can to help this team win games and try to be as efficient as I possibly can. And that's something that, you can preach and it will never not be relevant in sports, is consistency and making sure that you play at a high level for as long as the game goes. And if you do that, you're going to give yourself a better chance to win. It can't be ups and downs. And like I said, we know that, and that's what we're trying to work on. And that's what it's been for us. And that's why we're 2-4. Not because we don't have the talent, but because we haven't put our talent, at the maximum every single quarter. We can't have splashes of it here and there and expect to win, close games against tough teams. And so for me, that's one thing that I'm focusing on this week is making sure, okay, how can I maintain and not just maintain, but also sustain this opportunity and this progress of playing at a high level and making plays? I gotta make plays. That's something that I feel like I haven't done as much this year. And for whatever reason, it comes back to me internally, being the player that I know I can be and making sure that I'm playing at that level.
We're 3 weeks until the fantasy trade deadline, but people are wheeling and dealing already in the discussion tab in the fantasy app. Really cool way to get in there and get involved. Let's see what you guys think of some of the trade proposals that are out there. Heard from Austin. We got a deal involving him we're being asked about. Braden says, should I trade Eckler and T. Higgins for Jamar and Pacheco? We'll go through each of these, but I want to start with that one. So, James, what do you think on that one? Eckler and T. Higgins for Jamar and Pacheco?
I kind of sort of like the floor of the Pacheco side of that deal, but I don't know, man. I just look, I've got a man crush on Austin Eckler. I don't think I can ever let him go. I know that it's been a little bit of an up and down season from a fantasy perspective for Austin Eckler, man, but you're just giving him way too much upside, I think, on that side of the trade. So no, I probably keep that Eckler side.
Okay, let's pull up the next one, and this is Bijan Robinson. Here's the question. Trade Bijan for Henry. Jonathan Taylor is my other back, Carmen says. By the way, love that headshot of Bijan. Barons, what do you got on this one?
First of all, I appreciate that James didn't trade Eckler. It would be way too, trading a coworker on the show. It's a little bit too awkward.
Right.
We can't do it. This is, Derrick Henry is a tough one to talk about because he's clearly a trade candidate, right? And that could go well or maybe not so well, right? He could land in a spot where he's basically getting the same snap count that he sees right now, which is around 50% of the playing time, right? That's not great. Or he could land with, say, the Ravens, and he could absolutely blow up in the second half of the season. So this is tough. I'm just gonna keep Bijan, and I'm gonna believe all the maybe it's nonsense that we got from Arthur Smith, and I'm gonna keep riding the Arthur Smith thing and try to not pay attention to him as often as I can, and just trust the talent and the youth and all of that with Bijan. When he's on the field, he's looked like an absolute superhero. So I'm gonna stick with him.
All right, let's get one more up here. And this one, Jalen Waddle. It's Waddle, Ridley, Jacobs for Olave, Addison, and Achane. That comes from Jaden. What do you think on that one, James?
Oh, give me the Olave side all day long. I don't know where Achane is in terms of his recovery, but you take a look at that upside. I'll buy that all day long. Olave again has at least the tools to be a top 7 or 8 receiver in this league. And again, we've seen what Achane can do. So can he recover from his injury and still be that guy? I think so. So let's hope for that. And again, it just kind of sort of depends on where you are. If you're at the point in the season where you need a win, all right, well, waiting on Achane doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But if you feel like you can absorb a loss or two, okay, then that Achane side is looking really, really nice. So, yeah, go ahead and give me that Olave, Addison, and Achane side.
It's interesting to me because earlier today I was hanging out with Diana Rossini on one of our shows, Zero Blitz, and she talked about at the trade deadline in normal football, like everyday football, teams get hesitant sometimes for trades because they don't want to see a player go somewhere else and be successful. That is real. It's like looking at your ex go be successful. I'm reminded every time we look at these trade scenarios, it's the exact same. Like we're all sitting there saying, man, the worst fear is that I'm going to trade Derrick Henry, and then all of a sudden he goes somewhere where it just pops off and I'm never going to hear the end of it. All right, let's, in the spirit of the season, in case you haven't figured out with the early Halloween edition, we're going to continue to have Halloween fun throughout the course of the show. So we figured we'd do a little bit of fantasy trick or treat. So I'm going to ask each of you guys to give me people that fall into different categories. So James, we'll start with Andy. Andy, give me a treat here. Somebody you think is a treat.
Yeah, I think Gus Edwards definitely going to be a treat this week. Baltimore, again, a clear candidate to trade for a running back. I don't dispute that. But until they do, Gus can definitely be trusted. He gave us 144 scrimmage yards last week, a touchdown, the first long reception of his life, I'm pretty sure. And this week, he's facing Arizona. That's the league's 25th ranked run defense. They allow over 130 rushing yards per game. It is just hard to imagine that the run won't be in play all day for Baltimore against the Cardinals. Gus is also playing 50 to 60% of the snaps. He's handling a dozen touches or more each week. I think he's going to go off in this one. Maybe not quite to the level that he did last week, but he's certainly going to be a treat.
I knew he was going to go off. He was on my bench. James, give us a trick. Somebody that you're out there think is a trick right now.
I will stay at the running back position, and I'll talk about Brian Robinson. Look, it's really hard to say you could play this guy, especially with no teams on a bye this week, man. But Philadelphia allows the fewest fantasy points per game to the running back position, 3.3 yards per carry allowed, second best in the NFL. And, man, the Eagles are number 1 in the NFL in yards allowed after contact, okay? And I'll throw this stat out there, too. In the 3 losses of 7 or more points, Robinson averages 7.9 PPR points per game. In the 3 wins, he averages 18.7 PPR points per game. That's like an 11-point PPR difference. That's significant. Back in week 4, he did score 13.1 PPR points, but it was a close loss, and also he scored a touchdown. He only had 51 total yards on 3.2 yards per carry in that particular game. I think in this game, this week, man, I think Washington gets absolutely flooded by Philadelphia, and Brian Robinson is going to get absolutely snuffed out.
All right, Andy, your turn to give us a trick. Who you got on the trick list?
Yeah, this one could definitely blow up on me because I'm going with a pretty good player here. But, maybe I'm trying for the reverse jinx. Who knows? We have heard some vaguely positive comments from Zach Taylor on T. Higgins' health coming out of the bye, right? But while injured, his snaps have been limited. His usage severely limited. He's got 2 catches for 21 or fewer yards in each of his last 3 games. And then there's this week's matchup with San Francisco, which is not ideal. I just want to see it one time before I go back to ranking Higgins in the teens and using him without a second thought, using him with total confidence. I feel pretty good about the way Joe Burrow looks right now. I feel pretty good, obviously, about the way that Jamar Chase is playing. I just need to see it with Higgins, and if he blows up on the bench in a non-bye week, I'm okay with it. Let's just hope that he's ready by the second half to be the usual T. Higgins that we're accustomed to.
All right, I'd like to end these things on a positive note. So, James, give us a treat.
I will talk about my guy, Dameon Pierce here. And again, I don't think he's a great system fit for what they want to get done in Houston. And as a matter of fact, I would argue that Dameon Pierce at times has been borderline unplayable. But, oh my goodness, you can't ask for a better matchup on the board than Carolina. Again, as I mentioned, they've allowed the second most fantasy points per game to the running back position. They've allowed 5.3 yards per carry. That's the second worst in the NFL. Man, Carolina has allowed a double-digit PPR running back in every single game this season. As a matter of fact, they've allowed a 20-point PPR back in 4 of 6 games. That is absolutely banana pants. Dameon Pierce is going to have a good game in this one. And I would say this, after he blows up against Carolina, sell.
I'm going to take that advice myself. I love the passion on Dameon Pierce. Never thought we'd get there today. Okay, it is time. What time is it? It's my favorite time of the whole show. Why is it my favorite time? It's time for primetime picks. Now,
yes, again.
I'm being measured here. Co, you're new to the show, new to the family here, right? We do this every week. And it's a very simple process, right? You have 3 games on the slate. You have the Thursday night game, the Sunday night game, the Monday night game. Each of us in snake draft order must take only one player from each of those nights. So you got one shot, somebody from each of those nights, 3 players total. We accumulate the points. And what do you know? Wouldn't you know it? I went into Monday Night Football trailing heavily, and I took one Christian McCaffrey. And somebody else on this show, namely Andy Behrens, before the game started, had taken one George Kittle, as he is dressed today. And he said to the group text, I can see it now, 3 touchdowns for Kittle. He was right about the 3 tutties. He just had the wrong person because, whoo, I'm sitting on the leaderboard. Oh, my God, it feels so good. Golly, it's just, I want to thank my country. I want to thank my family. I want to thank my life coach. I'm now in first place yet again, where I feel like I belong. And I have the tiebreaker edge. So far, whether you're talking about wins or total points, I am putting on a clinic. I'm done gloating. The best part about this is that we still made our picks throughout the course of the week. So now, Co has got the unenviable job of defending. No matter what Harmon has picked, you must defend the pick, all right? So that's the way this whole thing, you've got no choice but to defend it. So we start the draft process. Behrens is on the clock first. Andy, you get to pick from the whole smorgasbord of games over the weekend that we have, the primetime games. Got Bucks at Bills, Bears at Chargers, Raiders at Lions. Who you taking first?
Fitz, you know who I miss? I miss week 2 Fitz. I miss that guy. I miss the guy who was calling this contest rigged, who was talking about what a corrupt process it was. That guy was onto something. This new Fitz, I don't know, week 7 Fitz, week 8 Fitz. I don't know this guy. I don't recognize this guy.
I'm saucy now.
I am gonna take. I'm gonna go with tonight's game. I'm gonna take Steph Diggs. He's got 500-yard games already this season. He's got 6 touchdowns in 7 weeks. And there are only like 1.5 players in this game that I really trust. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take the one that I actually like.
That's a great pick out of the gate, and good for you. Now this is the inevitable position. As we mentioned before, James, you have no choice but to defend. Matt has submitted his pick, and it will be Austin Eckler. How do we feel about Austin Eckler being the second pick off the board here?
Listen, I have no problem ever defending Austin Eckler. I've been the staunchest Austin Eckler defender in history. From day one, I'm an Eckler day one fan. That's okay. Chicago's allowed the second most receiving yards per game to running back and the 7.65 yards per target. It's the stone cold worst in the NFL. Eckler saw 2 targets last week. I think we're going to see a heavy overcorrection, especially given the finger injury for Herbert. He'd be very smart, I think, to check it down a lot more to his playmakers and specifically Austin Eckler.
I love that pick, actually. It really makes a lot of sense, which means I'm on the board and I've got the turn here. And you mentioned like these moments of bounce back and change. Well, the worst case scenario was not just my beloved Raiders getting creamed by Barron's Bears. And Andy has been graceful throughout that whole process, by the way. Kudos to you. The worst part is at the same time, the Lions got their asses just kicked by the Ravens. They're going to come in with the thunder of the gods on Monday Night Football. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to take on a secondary that is not prepared to cover any of this. I genuinely believe that the Lions have a real chance of winning this game by 40 plus. I think they can put on that sort of explosiveness. I think St. Brown is going to feast. And unless the Raiders suddenly figure out a new dramatic way to get into the to get to the quarterback, it ain't going to happen. So he's going to go absolutely off. I take that one, which means I now turn around and I got to take the next best weapon left on the board. I think it's Keenan Allen. And just because the Raiders couldn't do it doesn't mean anybody else can't. The Bears defense is still susceptible. It's just Raiders didn't know how to take advantage of it. I think this is a get right game for the Chargers coming in a big way. Keenan Allen going to be that top target, easy to go to. He'll be able to get a bunch of catches in this one. So I like that one. That means that you're back up and Matt has selected for you to defend Mike Evans.
Okay, this one's a little bit harder because it's not the best matchup in the whole world. But I will say this, injuries in the secondary obviously open up a lot more opportunities for Mike Evans in this game. I talk about the matchup. I'm a little worried about the matchup, okay? The Bills have allowed the third fewest yards and receptions on deep passes this year. They've allowed 0.00 touchdowns on deep passes this year. And obviously, as we know, Mike Evans has feasted on the deep pass through 7 games here. So I am a little worried, but the injuries in the secondary, I think, will allow for Mike Evans to be highly productive.
Okay, good. All right, Andy, you now have 2 straight picks. So you got a lot left on the board. But again, because you only get 1 pick from each night, your Thursday night is off the board. So you got to go Sunday and Monday. What are you taking first?
Well, as you know, Fitz, the first rule of fantasy football is that anytime you can draft Tyson Bagent's #1 receiver, you simply have to do it. So that's where I'm going. Really no further explanation required, right? I'm taking DJ Moore. I will say that it was nice to see DJ Moore actually heavily targeted last week. And sometimes that's what we get with a sketchy quarterback, right? They just come out firing to the one legit professional receiver on the field. So I think Moore has an okay day. It's not going to be like the last time we saw him in prime time, but it's going to be okay. My next pick, I'm going to your Raiders. I'm going to take Davante Adams. There was a huge effort, especially early last week, to just feed the ball to Davante. I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't finish the game with 15 catches, 16 catches, because the first couple drives were just all Davante. So all that effort didn't amount to a whole lot in the end, but still, 12 targets were nice. The Lions defense ranks 24th in the league against the pass. I need a ceiling game from someone here, and no other available player has a ceiling quite like Davante's.
Okay, and that means we're back to go here, and the pick has been made. It is Jahmyr Gibbs from Monday Night Football. All right, how do we feel about that one?
I feel great about it. It's an absolute smash spot, I think, for Jahmyr Gibbs. David Montgomery with those ribs has not practiced as of Thursday. So I don't know. We'll see, but it doesn't look like he's going to play. And if he doesn't, I think it's just a great pick here because, again, Detroit back at home, favorable game script with Detroit favored by 8 points. Las Vegas is bottom 10 in yards per carry, yards after, and yards before contact. And they're also bottom 10 in run stuff rate. So we just saw Deontay Foreman absolutely eviscerate this team. And I think Jahmyr Gibbs has an opportunity to do something similar.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I thought a lot about taking Jahmyr earlier over St. Brown because I think he's going to have a big day. But we'll see where that one goes. I'm last on the clock. I got to pick somebody out of this Thursday night football game. And here's the thing. I'd love to pick Gabe Davis. I would love to. He's on all my fantasy teams. But all he ever does is rip my heart out every single week. Never gets the damn ball. I can't trust anybody in Buffalo to make this right. I'm taking Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin's healthy. He's going to play in this game. There's a lot to what you guys have said about some of the matchups in this that make me a little bit nervous. But, man, I don't know right now that the Bills have anything in their arsenal other than, hey, Josh, try and get the ball to Stephon. And you've already taken Stephon Diggs. So I'm just going to take the last explosive person I feel like I can trust That's Godwin. Let us know how we did on this. And I am a little scared because Barron sort of undersold it. The last time DJ Moore was taken in this contest at all was the last time I took him, and it was, 732 points. Roughly. Don't Google it. That's a rough. It was a big game. All right, so each week, Sal Vetri offers up some unique fantasy advice here on the show. We're checking in with him now to see Sal's 7 key findings for Week 8. Check this out.
Here are the 7 key findings that'll help you win your Week 8 fantasy matchup. Finding number 1 takes us to the best spot of the week. And this best spot is for Isaiah Pacheco, who's a 7-point home favorite against the Denver Broncos. Pacheco faced Denver in Week 6 on the road on a short week in Thursday Night Football, and he still posted a season-high 22 touches for 98 total yards. And now since Week 4, Pacheco's handled 70% of the Chiefs' carries and has a touchdown in 4 of his last 5 games. Now this might seem unsustainable, but starting running backs and Patrick Mahomes' offenses average over a touchdown per game. The Broncos have allowed 143 yards per game to opposing running backs, the most in the league and 17% more than any other team. Finding number 2 is the pickup and play of the week. And this is the Cardinals tight end Trey McBride, who has seen his usage increase for 4 straight games. In Week 7, he saw a season-high 6 targets, and we found out on Tuesday of this week that Zach Ertz is going to be on the IR and miss the next 4 games at least. McBride was the Cardinals' second-round pick last year, and he's one of the most productive college tight ends of all time. In 2021, he earned over 1,100 yards and averaged 11.2 targets per game. He's worth a start in Week 8 if you're in need of a tight end. Finding number 3 takes us to the sketchy spot of the week. And this is for Derrick Henry, who has had a fine season, but his underlying usage is concerning. Henry has played his fewest snaps since 2018 and is averaging a career-low 3.9 yards per carry. Part of this lower usage is because rookie running back Tajay Spears is playing over 50% of the snaps this season. Now this week, Henry faces the Falcons' #1 run defense, and the Titans are expected to start rookie Will Levis. Expect Atlanta to stack the box against Henry, and if the Titans fall behind in this game, we might see more Tajay Spears snaps. Finding number 4 takes us to a player who is trending up. And this player is Josh Palmer, who exploded in Week 7 against the Chiefs for over 120 yards on 7 targets. Palmer has easily held off the first-round rookie receiver Quentin Johnston since Mike Williams' injury. During this time, Palmer has 22 targets, just 7 for Johnston. Palmer has another great matchup this week against the Bears' bottom 10 defense, but more importantly, his playoff schedule is great. He'll face the Raiders, Bills, and Broncos, who all have bottom 10 secondaries the past month of the season. Finding number 5 takes us to a player who is trending down. And that player is Alexander Mattison, because this was a split backfield in Week 7 with Cam Akers seeing 48% of the rush attempts. Akers actually saw 2 more carries than Mattison in this game, and this isn't shocking because Mattison just hasn't been efficient this season. He's averaging just 3.9 yards per carry, and despite having a top 5 opportunity share in the league, he hasn't been productive in fantasy. If Mattison has a solid game against the Packers this week, look to trade him immediately. Finding number 6 is something to watch. And this would be the Texans' backfield coming out of the bye week, because before the bye week, Devin Singletary led the backfield in routes run, snaps, and overall opportunities. And after that game, head coach DeMeco Ryan credited the rushing success to Devin Singletary's increased usage. In Week 6, Singletary was used in key situations. In the 4th quarter, he saw 9 of 13 running back snaps compared to just 2 for Dameon Pierce. But this usage is going under the radar because Singletary's only rostered in 19% of Yahoo leagues compared to 93% of leagues where Dameon Pierce is rostered. Add Singletary if he is available, and this week he faces a bottom 5 Panthers team. Finding number 7 is a rookie to monitor. And this is the 6th-round rookie in New England, the wide receiver Demario Douglas, who was standing out in training camp and just saw a season-high usage in Week 7. Douglas ran 76% of the routes, and this led to 74 total yards with Juju Smith-Schuster out. Now, Demario played his college ball at Liberty, where he averaged over 9 targets per game last year and was heavily involved on special teams in the return game, which is an indicator of talent and explosiveness. Now, there's a chance the rookie snaps decrease when Juju returns, but Juju has seen his snaps decrease this year because he hasn't been all that productive. Douglas standing out in Week 7 could lead to more future opportunities. So these are the 7 key findings for this week. All you have to do now is take them and utilize them in your matchup against your opponents. Best of luck.
All right, Sal. So, love the referee outfit. This is beautifully done by you, my friend. Well played. I have a feeling you're going to be throwing the flag on us a bunch. But my question for you is about at the very end, you were talking about rookie receivers in general. How much do you worry from a fantasy standpoint, though, about the rookie wall that we always hear about? You know, you reach a certain point in the season where it feels like rookies just sort of stop producing. Do you worry about that still in modern NFL?
think it depends on the position. We've kind of seen it factored out, at least at the wide receiver position, the last couple of years. And honestly, it's kind of a changing of times. Now it becomes what happens after the bye week for these rookies. How do coaches get them more involved in the offense? Because the rookies that are coming out these past couple of years, the past decade, they're just so much more equipped than, say, 20 to 30 years ago. So honestly, I think they're blowing by the wall. And right now they're seeing increased roles once they hit those bye weeks.
When the camera goes solo on you, I feel like I'm ready for you to have a mic and be like, offsides, defense, look, I'm ready for the whistle.
I can only break your heart. I can only break your heart.
I'm used to it. It's just my life. All right, let's get into some play calling here. Remember, hashtag AskFFL is how you always get in on the fun here. We're going to answer some of your questions that have been submitted through social media, through the app. Everybody's going to get, man, I look at this picture of us and I just can't help but laugh. All right, let's pull up the first question. It comes from Lance asking, PPR, flex 1 of 3, Cortland Sutton, Josh Downs, Dante Foreman. Let's start with Co on this one. Co, what you got?
I would say the floor play for me is Josh Downs. New Orleans allows the 6th most fantasy points to the slot, and Downs, of course, is coming off of his best game of the season where he scored 23.5 full-point PPR points, right? But he has gone for 13-plus PPR points in 4 of his last 5, so I would say Downs is your floor play and probably your most consistent. I know there's some question about usage with Foreman, with Rashawn Johnson coming back, but if you want upside and you just need points, go ahead and give me Deontay Foreman. You know why? Because he is hashtag good. My guy, Deontay Foreman, is just straight up a good player, man. So if you want that upside, go ahead and give me Foreman.
Hashtag good should be a thing. All right, question number 2. Jeff says, Superflex, Desmond Ridder or Sam Howell? Let's let George Kittle chime in on this one. Parents, what do you got? Ridder or Howell?
What a question. First of all, the kudos to Sal for actually dressing like as an authority, and the rest of us are just sitting here like maniacs.
I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. Peter Venkman is a doctor, sir. I demand to be fair point.
I really didn't think this thing through. So Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell, these guys are they're like top 13 fantasy quarterbacks on the year, and that is not me saying something nice about them. That is an absolute indictment of the position. Both of them have a little bit of rushing ability. I think that Howell is a much better bet for high volume in this game. And when you're talking about sketchy quarterbacks, that's probably all I'm chasing here. It's going to be messy volume. He has given us 3 multi-touchdown games so far this season. I'd probably go there. He's far more likely to attempt 40 passes than Ridder.
All right, let's get to the next question. And this one, of course, goes to our referee. It'll go to Sal. Riz asks, pick 2 PPR, Gabe Davis, DeMarcado, or Jackson Smith and Jigba?
Yeah, so this one's going to probably come down to what happens with the Seattle injury reports. DK Metcalf practiced in full yesterday, and Tyler Lockett actually missed with a hamstring. So you have to see what happens there. But the risk is Gabe Davis plays tonight. It kind of comes down to your risk tolerance here. I'll say go ahead and play Gabe Davis tonight. Don't take the risk. We know what we're getting there. It's a boomer bust receiver. You're going to get downfield usage. Josh Allen will trust him a couple of times. Does it convert? If so, you're going to get what you got the first month. If not, you get the 5 points or less you got the last couple of weeks. Either way, I want to play Amari DeMarcado, which makes me feel terrible. I want to throw every flag possible because I picked him up. Many people picked him up. He did nothing for you. You drop him, and then he has 94% of the snaps. They trust him completely in every single situation. So who knows what's going to happen this week? But if they put him in there in every single situation, pass protection, passing downs, short yardage, I assume they're going to give him some significant usage this week. So I'll take DeMarcado and Gabe Davis.
I'm going to let you throw that flag here because we're going to just throw a little wiggle in here. Co, the next question comes to you, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to have you chime in, and then we'll see if the ref likes what you've decided here. Question 4, John asked, Devontae Smith or Josh Downs, PPR. Co, tread lightly here because their official is going to either throw the flag or whistle or something after. What do you got on this one?
Like, yo, I know we're down bad on Devontae Smith, but come on, guys. Like, let's believe in the player here a little bit, you know? Like, I like Josh Downs, too. I just highlighted the fact that he's been really reliable as a flex play, but come on, man. Like, Devontae Smith is such a good player. Let's believe in the talent, and I do think that Philadelphia will try to feature him a little bit more. By the way, you couldn't ask for a better matchup, okay? Washington is absolutely horrid on the outside. They're getting gashed everywhere by outside wide receivers. And again, I highlight the fact that Washington has given up 5 double-digit PPR scores to outside wide receivers in 6 weeks. 5 in 6 weeks, okay? Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown will be double-digit PPR scores this week.
Are we throwing the flag on that side? We good with that?
The pick is good. The pick is
Okay.
good. The pick is good.
Look at that. All right, let's get one more in real quick here. We'll go Bunch of Funch, just because it's a fun name for me to say. Bunch of Funch says, Chris Godwin, Zay Flowers, Brian Robinson, start 1 half PPR. Andy, what do you got?
Oh, I can't get flagged. I'm terrified. I'm gonna go Zay Flowers here against an Arizona defense that's allowing 8.1 yards per attempt on the season. Zay has over 50 receiving yards in every game but one. Has double-digit targets 3 times so far this season. He just looks like a star to me. He looks like if he's not the number 1, he's the number 1A behind Mark Andrews. I love the matchup. I absolutely love the player. So slightly into Flowers.
Okay, it's great work by the ump, by the way. Make sure you follow Sal on social media at Sal Vetri. DFS is the way you do it, and check out all of his great work in the Yahoo's fantasy app. Ump, great job. We rarely say this, but quality work by the officials, still throwing the flags. Let's take a look at the injury report coming out of practices today. Who we're taking a look at for the whole weekend. Kareem Hunt thigh did return to practice today, I should say. Jerome Ford still doubtful with the ankle. Tyler Lockett hamstring did not practice today. Alvin Kamara illness, he did return to practice today. Tyreek Hill with the hip injury. Adam Schefter says didn't practice due to a hip injury. Told reporters he's fine and he's playing Sunday. I look across the board on this, obviously a lot to break down, but Andy, I want to look at Kareem Hunt for just a second here because Kareem Hunt has been relied on. Like, he is growing in this offense. So how much hesitation do you think we should all have at this point if we have Hunt in our lineup?
Well, great sign that he's back at practice on Thursday, right? And that this isn't some situation where he's just kind of limited on Friday. He's going to try to give it a go because Jerome Ford's going to be out in this one. Pierre Strong played well last week, but I'm pretty sure that all Cleveland wants to do while PJ Walker is their quarterback and maybe beyond is just run the heck out of the football, right? They'd love to get away with running the ball 35, 40 times a week and getting out with like a 17-14 win, leaning on a league best defense. So I think that's what we can expect from them. Again, tremendous sign that Hunt is practicing. I think he's a strong play.
James, what is the Tyler Lockett injury, the hamstring? What's that say for you?
I'm a little bit worried about that for Tyler Lockett. And again, remember too, DK Metcalf is also dealing with a little bit of an injury there. All of that just indicates to me that JSN has increased upside and probably increased floor as well. So we got those hamstrings are tricky, especially for a slightly older player, man. We got to keep a close eye on that one.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for you to talk about, too, what that means for the wide receivers. It'll be interesting to see how they balance that offense. Remember, you can keep in touch with us all throughout the weekend as we get ready for the action on Sunday morning, too. Let's take a look at our fantasy graveyard as we continue the Halloween theme. It's players on our fantasy roster who are dead to us. All right, there's just no nice way to say, like, you're gone, you're dead. And, Andy, you get to go first. And I'm going to be honest. Like, I'm going to peel back the curtain. I'm just going to let everybody know. We got a group text, it's like, hey, here are the things we're going to talk about. The person that you're about to pick, I tried to pick too. You got to it first. That's how dead he is. Who you got?
I've actually dropped Jahan Dotson in a handful of leagues, but I've got a couple where, it's like 14 teams, 16 teams. There's so many flexes. I can't drop him because he's like a functional player who sees the field. But man, this has been rough. He had a game-changing dropped pass last week, and even more glaring drop the previous week, and that was on his only target. It has just been bad. He has 1 touchdown, and his single game yardage high this season is 43. You drafted him. I drafted him as just a glaring, screaming breakout candidate coming off a promising rookie season, and it just simply hasn't happened. And we're here like at the halfway mark of the year. So again, I've dropped him in a couple places, but you can't do it everywhere. I'm starting Josh Reynolds over him this week. I'm starting certainly Curtis Samuel over him. I'm starting Josh Palmer over him. He's absolutely in the fantasy graveyard for me until further notice.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how he gets out of that at some point because it feels like there's a rut there. Since I couldn't take Dotson, I went with another wide receiver that's also dead to me, and it's Amari Cooper. And look, there have been so many beautiful moments in Amari Cooper's career. So many times that you've looked at it, and it has been absolutely epic. But now, what is Cleveland as a team? Everybody I've talked to, every insider I've talked to continues to tell me they're going to be aggressive to try and get a running back because the method, as you mentioned earlier, Andy, the method for this team is run the football a bunch, and just hope that whoever your quarterback is doesn't screw it up. That is not a method on top of an inconsistent wide receiver that leads me to dependable production down the road. If I was at a spot where I thought I could get significant value, or at least comp value at this point for Amari Cooper in any of my leagues, I would trade out of him, because I don't think I can trust him week in and week out for the rest of the year. I can't trust the quarterback position. I can't trust what they're going to do play calling wise. I can only trust the defense. If I got Cleveland defense, I'm going to trust it all day long. Everything else, I am absolutely scared of. So Amari Cooper, in honor of Halloween, dead to me. James, who do you got as somebody that's dead to you?
Well, listen, I will stay with the theme of talented but mercurial wide receiver. And how about Calvin Ridley? My dude, Calvin Ridley, we're putting him in the dirt. Okay, he's the wide receiver 37 on the season. He's had 7 or fewer PPR points in 3 games this year. The absolute nadir came last week with his 1-catch, 5-yard performance against New Orleans. Look, he looked incredible running routes against air in the preseason. But as I said at that time, can we respect the game a little bit and assume a man who has not played football in a year and a half needs time to get back? Now listen, this week against Pittsburgh, it's a great matchup. If he goes off, cool, I'm happy for him. Sell, sell, sell. Calvin Ridley in the dirt for me.
All right, so you guys got to let us know who's dead to you too, because I think we're all feeling this as we get this late in the season. One person not dead to anybody in the fantasy football world, Raheem Mostert, obviously having an incredible year. I had the chance earlier today to catch up with him in a conversation where we talked about everything from flag football and relating to Mike McDaniels and what makes the Dolphins offense so special. Check a little of it out right here. Everybody wants to know, how's the ankle?
It's good. It's good. I ran today in practice and feeling good. You know, it's just a little tweak. I had unfortunately something going on during the game, but all is well. So I'm looking forward to this weekend, this Sunday against the Patriots.
I mean, everybody looks forward to watching this Dolphins offense every week. Real question, who's the fastest?
Yeah, you're looking at him.
I mean, what is it about your head coach, Mike McDaniel, that relates to you guys so well?
Yeah, I tell everybody all the time, you know, when they ask about his personality, you know, I've been with him for quite some time now, I believe like 6.5 years. And the one thing that's consistent about him is his quirkiness. He's just a quirky guy. You know, he throws these little punchline jokes and thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. And you're looking at him like, come on now, Mikey, that's funny, but not really. But, you know, I'm not going to be the guy to ruin your day. But no, honestly, he's just cool, man. He's laid back, chill. He doesn't let his highs get too high and his lows get too low. You know, he's just trying to be the best coach he could possibly be.
Now, you said you've been with him for years, and I think that's an interesting part of your journey because it feels like you're being seen this year in ways that maybe you haven't in the past. What does that mean to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, he knows who I am as a person, you know, as a family man, and he also knows, you know, me as a player and what he's gonna get. And we have those conversations all the time, especially during game day. You know, he knows when I give him a certain look that I don't give, you know, a normal person, not even my wife. He knows that it's time to go and it's time to play ball and, you know, just get the ball in my hands. So if you have a dynamic like that, I think that's the most important thing in regards to a player and the head coach, because I mean, the sky's the limit, you know, especially when a guy is play calling. You know, Mikey's going out there making these plays, not only for me, but for Tyreek, for Jalen Waddle, you know, for a lot of different guys, Durham. You're just trying to make the best, you know, situation that he possibly can for us. And we're just trying to go out there and execute.
That's a lot of mouths to feed, though. What is it about this group that allows everybody to be selfless?
Yeah, everybody. That's the key word right there. Everybody's selfless. You know, we all understand the game, and we try to challenge each other. You know, I mean, even with the fast guys, you know, everybody wants to be clocked at the fastest speed, and right now Reek has the title, but you know, it's a challenge within the battle of each other, and you know, it just brings the best out of us, and I think that's why we go so well together. You know, all of us out there on the field. And that's what you got to have as an offense. You know, you need all 11 guys to contribute in a way that, you know, it's a selfless act and go out there and have fun.
Yeah, but what is it about this offense? Because we've seen dynamic offenses before, but y'all can score from anywhere, anytime. What makes it so hard to defend for teams?
I mean, everybody has to account for everyone. You know, when it comes to a certain offense, guys have to step up to the plate, and we have plenty of guys that can step up to the plate. I mean, even the back end, you know, the guys that are second string or third string, they all can get the job done. So with this offense, man, it's just high flying, and we're just trying to do unthinkable things, you know, things that have never been done before, and that's our mindset. But we also don't try to put so much pressure on ourselves. You know, we want to get the best that we possibly can and go out there and try to compete and win.
All right, Raheem Mostert, he's too good for this segment. He's played his way out of it. This is Fantasy Face-Off, and the concept is simple. We compare one of the week's buzziest players to a group of similarly ranked guys at the same position. I'm joined by Co-Exotic here, and we're going to talk about Darrell Henderson. This feels like the 9th straight season in which Henderson has claimed the Rams' featured rushing role, and in every other season, he's also eventually lost it. He's coming off a nice fantasy day, reached the end zone, played over 50% of the snaps, but everything should always feel tenuous, I feel like, with Henderson. So let's compare him to another guy for whom things are suddenly tenuous, Alexander Mattison. He's facing Green Bay this week. He was just out-touched and outgained by Cam Akers in the Niners win, but he's had a couple of big games. Who do you like here, James?
Well, I think for me, again, I got to ask the question, are we even sure Henderson's going to be active? Because he got reverted back to the Rams practice squad. We don't know. I mean, they're already talking about, Myles Gaskin, Zach Evans. And so I think in that regard, I'll go ahead and take Mattison. The matchup is really good, too. Green Bay is, stop me if you've heard this before, but Green Bay's bad at stopping the run. I know that's shocking. But they've allowed the 3rd most fantasy points per game to the position, and they allowed the 6th most rush yards per game to RB. I know that we're worried about Cam Akers, but you know what? Overall, it's a really nice matchup, and I don't think that Cam Akers is ever going to supplant Mattison as the actual starter in this offense. So, again, go ahead and give me Mattison.
Yeah, Royce Freeman actually looked pretty frisky for the Rams last week as well. He looked good, and again, the one guarantee in fantasy is that Darrell Henderson eventually loses this job. How about Deontay Foreman? Now, we talked about him earlier, and you made a great point about him kind of being a ceiling play this week. He was a monster, obviously, last week, one of the right answers in fantasy, reached the end zone 3 times. This week, we don't even know if he's necessarily the lead back because Roschon Johnson is returning from concussion protocol.
It's a little bit weird for me that Deontay Foreman keeps getting stiff-armed because, again, he's filled in for Derrick Henry and was awesome, filled in for CMC and was awesome, and again, now he has an injury in front of him and he's filling in, and guess what? He's awesome! Like, what more does Deontay Foreman have to do? This is not your typical just run-of-the-mill fill-in back, right? Like, he's not a Kirkland brand dude. This guy is an actual viable NFL starter. He's a good player, man. So, no, I really like Deontay Foreman in what's a pretty good matchup, too. The Chargers have allowed the 10th most fantasy points per game to the position.
James, we respect the Kirkland signature line here. I actually really like Deontay Foreman. I think he's great. I've kind of gone all in on him in the ranks this week. He's a ceiling play. It's so hard to take the job away from a guy who just scored 3 touchdowns. So I do like Deontay there. How about Ramondre Stevenson? He obviously, he's got a Zeke Elliott problem, clearly. He's got an offensive line problem. They've had some rough moments. But he's a gifted receiver. Maybe the matchup against Miami suits him. How do you feel about him?
It's interesting that Ramondre and Tony Pollard are going through similar things, and there's that Zeke Elliott connective tissue there, right? Like everyone assumed that when Ramondre got this starting gig, he would just be off and running. Same with Pollard, and it just hasn't really been the case. It's a neutral matchup against the Miami Dolphins, who give up just about league average PPR points to running back. But I do think that Ramondre in a trailing game script could work in a lot and should work in a lot more as a pass-catching running back. And I just think if you want like a PPR cheat code, I feel like Ramondre is probably a better call than Darrell Henderson. So much of this, Andy Behrens, goes back to I don't know if Darrell Henderson is even going to play. Getting reverted back to the practice squad just makes me feel so nervous because, as you mentioned, he's been through this before with the Rams over and over again. So, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we're not even 11 months from him being outright waived by the Rams. So it was a fantastic story. I agree with you. I would play Ramondre here. I think we really helped some people this time in this segment. Good work, James. Let's send it back to Fitz. We're going to get spooky with some sleepers.
Oh, look at you! I needed more sass. I mean, like spooky. We'll work on it, Barons. We got plenty of time. All right, all 32 teams. Like all 32 teams are in action this week. Every single one of them. No buys to just disrupt our lives. So we thought we'd see if we could identify some spooky sleepers for week 8. So we'll start with Co-Exotic, as we've now deemed him throughout this whole show. It's the stash I can't get over. All right, what do you got? Give me a spooky sleeper.
The funniest thing about this stash is that as an Asian man, I cannot possibly grow facial hair. It's like not possible. So the fact that I have this mustache going right now is incredible. You know, I'm really living vicariously through this costume. As a spooky sleeper, though, give me Odell Beckham Jr., who plays 93% of his snaps as an outside wide receiver. Beautiful matchup on the table against Arizona, who's allowed the 4th most fantasy points per game to outside pass catchers, including the most receptions and the 5th most yards per game. 75% completion rate allowed to the outside. That's the 3rd worst in the NFL. Odell Beckham, from a volume standpoint, season high 7 targets last week. And guys, is it at least possible that he's rounding into form after missing all of last year? I think it's possible, at least, that we see a better Odell Beckham to close out the season. Oh, by the way, Arizona's allowed a double-digit outside wide receiver in 5 of their past 6 games. So I really think Odell has a chance to surprise this week.
And if Odell surprises, that will continue the ascension of the rest of that offense. I'll give you a sleeper, a little bit of bias in this, but I'll give you a sleeper that I think actually has a real shot to have a big game. Michael Mayer, in part because, come on, it's Michael Myers. Like, that's part of it. But also the tight end for the Raiders. Look, not a lot of points there, but I think what you have to look at is the last 4 weeks, right? Every single week, we've seen his snap share continue to rise. And even last week in a game where he wasn't looked at, he was still on the field. So now you got to ask yourself, what are the Raiders going to do with the return of Jimmy G on Monday night? Well, they're going to have 2 tight ends on the field the entire time because they don't trust their offensive line, which means Mayer is going to be on the field for the majority of it. So when you know your guy's going to be on the field and you know that offensive line can't hold up, it only makes sense that a quarterback that wants to get rid of the ball quickly will do that to Michael Mayer. I think there's a real chance for a sleeper action for him in a game where the Raiders are going to get absolutely demolished. The tight end position will still be a key for a quarterback that needs to get rid of the ball quickly. He'll have a big one. Andy, what do you think here? What's a spooky sleeper you're looking at?
I feel like you're lacking a little of your usual sunny Raiders optimism this week. It's too bad to see this happen.
Can't imagine why.
I mean, I can't imagine either. I'm going to go with a guy that we've actually talked about a fair amount on this show, so maybe he's not a sleeper exactly, but it is Josh Downs. He was one of the most popular ads of the week. He should have been one of the most popular ads like 2-3 weeks ago, but you guys didn't do it. He's got touchdowns now in back-to-back games. He demonstrated last Sunday that he is more than a 0 A-dot slot guy at 125 yards, a long touchdown reception. He's also seen at least 6 targets in each of his last 3 games. The guy never plays fewer than 70% of the snaps. That goes back to opening week. Everything basically trending in the right direction for a player who was absolutely dominant at the collegiate level too. New Orleans doesn't seem like a great matchup on the surface, but they actually do allow the highest target share in the league to slot receivers. So this could be good news for Downs specifically. I expect him to have a pretty good week.
Kudos to the Colts for doing this with their backup quarterback, too. I'm just going to keep saying that over and over and over. Like, speaking of great mustaches, the mustache man out there doing his thing. All right. James, you are new to this fun. This is my favorite part of the whole show. It might be my favorite part of the whole week. It's a very simple concept. It's the hurry-up offense. Got 24 seconds going to go up on the clock. I'm going to read the question. You got to get answered before the whistle actually blows in our ears. We'll show you one first. We'll go with Andy, and that's what I like to do. 25 seconds up there. Andy, do I start James Cook tonight or Chuba Hubbard on Sunday? Juice wants to know. Andy, what do you think, sir?
James, I'm going to blow this. I'm not the person you look for help in this segment. I miss it every time. I'm going to start James Cook. I'm going to go with him. I can't do it with Chuba Hubbard. Miles Sanders coming back. He's talking a big game. I think James Cook is the play. I think he sees more work. See, I did it again. Blew it again.
We'll go easier here for Coach starting it out. Jim wants Kincaid tonight or Kittle versus Cincy. What do you think?
Oh, I think this one's easy for me. You're going to start George Kittle here at Week 8 against Cincinnati as the Bengals have allowed the 7th most fantasy points per game to the tight end position. I know Andy Behrens co-signs that.
That's it. I mean, there's still 7 seconds left on the clock.
I know. We're moving, baby.
Oh,
We're
it's gonna
moving.
get hard for you next time. Joshua asking, Nico or London, half PPR. Barons, what do you think?
Oh, this is one of those questions that I wish Herman got, because these are a couple of reception guys right here. I'm going to go Nico Collins. He's reached 80 receiving yards 4 times this year. His best games this season have been just absolute week winners. He's dominant. I like Drake London too, but I don't think they're going to be throwing a lot.
The whistle means stop, sir. All right, John coming in asking, pick one, CeeDee Lamb or Jacoby Myers. Don't show off, Co. What do you got here?
Look, I know that CeeDee Lamb has not performed up to expectations. He's the wide receiver 24 in full point PPR. Jacoby Myers, meanwhile, surprisingly, the wide receiver 12. What's happening out here in the fantasy streets? I love it. But I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb here. I think, again, just a higher scoring game. I think you're exposed to more touchdown upside.
All right, now I love the long ones. Billy D. Kidd, flex question, D. Foreman, K. Hunt, J. Downs, or A. Madison, full point PPR. Only can play one. What do you got for me, Barons?
Thank you for not reading the ... I'm going to go Deontay Foreman here. I'm going to go verifiably good player. Deontay Foreman, the guy coming off the touchdown game. I like Hunt. I like Downs. I like 3 of these 4, but I'm going Foreman.
Okay, that was let's just give credit here. Odie is such an underrated cartoon character, and Co. I think it's important that we acknowledge that while I ask you the question. Scary Terry or James Cook PPR flex spot. What do you think?
Terry McLaurin taking on Philadelphia, and actually they've been surprisingly bad against outside wide receivers, despite last year being one of the absolute best. I'm going James Cook in this one. I think he gets a lot of PPR production.
Oh, look, I even pinched him in. He still almost got it. All right. Jason asking, Rashad White tonight or Dante Foreman on Sunday? That's an important question. Got to figure this out one. Barons, got to know quick. What do you think?
Rashad White, one of the least efficient players in the league, or verifiably good back Deontay Foreman.
Come on.
He has been fully approved by James Coe. Come on, this is Foreman.
Okay, with time to spare, no less. Wow, you guys are showing off tonight. All right, G. Roth asks a very simple question, Co. It has a complicated answer, I'm sure. He simply asks Ayuk or Aaron Jones with 3 question marks afterwards. What do you think?
I think for me, this one's pretty easy. I'm going Brandon Ayuk here. The injury for Aaron Jones still worries me a little bit. Again, if you're looking for a floor play, of course it's Aaron Jones, man. But for me, I'm always chasing upside. Give me Brandon Ayuk.
Okay, a little whistle. Got respect the whistle, people. Respect the whistle. Crickets asks Godwin or Josh Downs. What do you think, Barons?
Oh man, I'm still waiting for a Godwin touchdown. I like him. I don't mean to dismiss him necessarily here. And this Bills defense isn't what it would have been without White, without Milano. But I'm gonna go Josh Downs here. I'm a pretty big believer. And again, against New Orleans, the slot receiver man has been peppered with targets. I think this is a good week for Downs.
Next one, the only Sutton. I didn't know there was competition for other Suttons. And a half PPR Superflex. I need to sit one Mixon at San Francisco, Say Flowers at Arizona, and Calvin Ridley at Pittsburgh. I love that he took the time, Co, to give us the matchups. What do you think?
Oh, that's the best. Oh, first of all, kudos to Cortland Sutton, because he's the only Sutton apparently that I know of. Anyways, but I'm going to sit one out. I'm sitting Joe Mixon against San Francisco. Are you kidding me? I don't want anything to do with San Francisco's defense, not with Joe Mixon.
All right, let's see what Mikey here wants. Thielen, Garrett Wilson, or T. Higgins. Hashtag Ask FFL. Note the great spider on the graphic too. Barons, what do you think?
Man, August me can't believe that I'm doing this, but I'm going to play Adam Thielen here. He's got 4 touchdowns over his last 5 games. He's got at least 7 catches in each, 100+ yards 3 times this year. I got to see it from Higgins.
All right, Michael coming in saying, at flex, Hollywood Brown or Rashee Rice. At tight end, Evan Ingram or Dalton Schultz. Standard scoring. 2 questions, 1 tweet. We'll allow it. What do you think, Co?
Dinosaur scoring. I love it. Go ahead and give me a Hollywood Brown. I think they're going to have to chase a little bit. And he's been seeing a ton of volume as well. I'll go ahead and take that floor upside play with Hollywood Brown at tight end. Oh my God. I guess I'll go Evan Ingram.
Delay a game. 5-yard penalty. Repeat first down. Roger Rabbit asking Henderson versus Dallas or Hubbard versus Houston in full PPR. Thanks. Hashtag Ask FFL. Barons, what do you got?
You know what? Sal's not here. We're not throwing flags anymore. I'm gonna go Darrell Henderson here. I get that he's reverted back to the practice squad. I think he's gonna play. I think he's gonna come back up. He's gonna play. It's not a great matchup, but man, Chuba has a Miles Sanders problem this week. Again, I think Miles Sanders back to full health.
Bringing up Sal is unsportsmanlike conduct, 15-yard penalty, repeat first down. Sports Truth wants to know, I'm debating between Kincaid and Ridley in my flex. Hashtag AskFFL. Co, what do you got for us?
Dude, I know I just put Ridley in the dirt, and I know he's dead to us, but man, look, come on, man. Like, let's play Calvin Ridley, okay? It's a great matchup against Pittsburgh. They give up a ton of production to outside wide receivers. I think Ridley has a fine week this week. And then after that, like I said, sell.
I like the sell. That's all right. Cage Sweets wants to know, unsure who to flex. Nico, Kareem Hunt, or Jacoby Myers. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, and this one's hard. This is one where I really want to know the rest of the lineup because I want to play all these guys. I love Nico Collins this week, but I'm going to go Kareem Hunt. He practiced. We got no Jerome Ford. Huge deal that he returned to practice. And Cleveland, again, going to want to manage around P.J. Walker, going to want to run the football.
Co, this was your first experience with us hanging out on this show. You were delightful, my friend. The mustache was nowhere near as good as your energy and your wild performance. Also, we should give Harmon a credit. He was here the whole time. Again, as Casper the Friendly Ghost. You just couldn't see him on set. He's here. He's just like haunting us all the way around. Join us each and every Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Check out the entire library of podcasts that we have, including the Yahoo Fantasy Football Show. Got a lot of great stuff out there. Check back in Sunday morning for the latest on player injuries. And our own Scott Pianowski will be answering your last-minute lineup questions on social media. Hashtag AskFFL. Remember, you can check out a ton of great content in the Fantasy app, in the Yahoo Sports app. We're really proud of what we're putting out. Most importantly, I have to take a second and thank everybody behind the scenes that really worked their tails off to put together this show this week. The graphics, the images, the Halloween work was incredibly well done by everybody that you don't get to see sit in front of a microphone and do this. Without them, we're just three bumbling idiots, which is maybe what we are anyway. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for Andy Behrens, for James Coe. I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks for hanging out. Enjoy your week of football.